So since this is my second attempt at this video, I am going to just get right into it, and since there have been a lot of changes, I'm going to start around the stair area, and I'm just going to work my way around and what's closest. So starting right here, I've added in the lamps that I would like to add. I'm pretty happy with how their design has come about. And I do have daylight sensors on the top, so once it becomes nighttime, these will turn on and they'll light up the area. And they seemed a little empty, so I decided to add something in between, and after a few attempts, this is what I ended up with. I do quite like it, and I think lining all of the streets with it is going to look really nice. I've not made it too far down, as I have very quickly run out of spore blossoms. I started sitting here and staggering them, so it's every other that has a spore blossom, partially just because I feel it looks a little better, and partially just because, again, I started really rapidly running out of them. But I do hope that with the glowberries, since they will start obviously growing glowberries, I'm not going to try and stop that because I do hope it'll start lighting up the general area so that there's just a little bit more light than with just the lamps. I've not extended the walkway itself too far, but I have started working on the stairs a bit more with my friend. It's obviously still not very far along, but as it has been very sporadic updates. But we have been making a lot of progress, and we have managed to figure out a floor and start adding that in. And we've started adding in a little gardens area up here, along with some trees that I'm actually really proud of, as they're some of the best trees I've made. On the other side, I have started blending the mountain in a little bit. This one I tried to just put the mountain back as it was, and on the other side I've started trying to blend it. As the stairs get a little further and we figure out more how the stairs themselves are going to look, I'll blend the mountain a lot better into the stairs. Continuing up, I did notice that the stairs were off-center, and I don't really want to move the entire stairs or the entire entrance here, so I have started to veer it a little bit. I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that, but at the moment I'm alright with it. I don't hate it, I guess. Over here, though, I have blended a little bit into the pathway I use over there. Again, this is subject to change, as not only do I not know what this block's going to be, but I do want to sort of stagger the stair blocks in with the dirt a little bit more, so it's not as sudden of a change. Going right in, you can see that I've started to work out this room. It took me a little while to figure out a ceiling I'm alright with. I'm not sure if that's going to be the ceiling I keep, but it does blend fairly well in with the carpet and with a element in there I'll get to in just a moment. But I have been working on getting this room up, and it's at a point that I think the basic room is alright, and I'd like to start adding things like furniture and whatnot to furnish it. And since it's a little bit more obvious, I'm going to quickly stop in this room where I've started building up the walls. It's mostly finished. It did take me a while because a lot of this is made out of iron, which I did start running out of really quickly. But I did take a lot of time to make sure that pillars like this looked really nice. But I am really proud of how things have turned out in this room, especially the pillars over here, because those took a while to get to look correct on such an angle. I think I'm going to continue those up one, and then make there be a sort of balcony up there as well. Obviously, I haven't finished remaking the roof, but it is a lot of strange organic shapes, and not all of the beams connect up. I do like the two separate sections I have at the moment. I just need a little bit to figure out how exactly those two separate sections are going to connect. Heading up the stairs over here is the other room I've been working on. This is the element that the roof connects a little bit to. It's just a little tint of green, which I think worked really well with this room and was sort of the main reason I made the ceiling of this room green. For this room, I did play around with mixing textures, like how this is mud brick and spruce trapdoors, and this is terracotta and bamboo, and how the ceiling is both stripped and regular dark oak. But I did also play with trying to make an actual pattern with the floor, so it took me a few times to line it up somewhat nicely, but I do really like how the floors turned out. I'm thinking this room might end up being a library. Regardless, I am really happy with how the windows here turned out. And outside here, I've not done any detailing to the windows themselves, but I have started detailing the railing up here. I've put in a little sectioning thing to define the edges of that ceiling there. I'm going to add something to decorate the bottom of it at some point. At the point it's currently at, I do really enjoy how it looks. Just on the side here, I have started adding a little railing to the ends of the roofs. I think that it blends really well, the top and bottom, and a lot of my lightning rods were still burning the wooden blocks that they were on top of. Some of them were even burning the terracotta. So I was trying to work on making a rail to stop that from happening. So my hopes is that with them on top of iron bars and then more stone, that nothing burns down in any way, shape, or form. And to that end, I tried a bunch of things, and then my friend suggested adding some form of arching underneath, and that's how I've ended up with the current design. I have been using it as a chance to add lanterns to try and light up the build a little bit better. Over here with this tower, I wasn't quite happy with how it looked, so I switched it to granite and added little sectioning with mud brick in between, and I am really happy with how it turned out. Doesn't look great from the inside yet, but again, something I'm going to add detailing and furnishing to, and I hope that helps it a lot. Just as a quick glance, you'll notice that I've been filling in walls. That's just been to make it a little easier for me to visualize how the whole shape looks. It's not all going to say wooden, but it does really help me with visualizing how the end product is going to be. Over here on this side, I've started defining where I want some of the walls. I've popped out this wall a little bit as it looked pretty flat without it. It does continue around the corner. And up on the upper part, I have added a little extra drop down for a garden, as again, this whole area was looking a bit flat and strange. So that I added that, and that helped a lot in my mind. Back down below, I did decide that I want most of this to be grass, so I'm leaving a small, roughly 3-block wide pathway of wood around it to look partially like a decking, but I am going to keep the rest of it as grass, as I think that does look a lot better in the end. I have also been starting to work on adding a little greenhouse area over here. I've added a little roof that I'm going to continue until at least that point. Past that point, I'm not too sure. I do quite like the idea of the greenhouse to tie this area sort of to the ground while still keeping the mountain as it is here. I'm also going to be filling out these pillars and leaving this as sort of a rough cliff face. Over in this general area, I'm still not sure. I would like to add a larger waterfall flowing through here, as there's already this waterfall, but regardless, that's something I'm still working on. Over on this side, though, I have started raising the area so that this part sort of drops down a little better, as it was already raised to begin with. Just this way it makes it all visually a little bit more streamlined. I do think this is the point where I'm going to stop it being the greenhouse and start it being the mansion again. So the mansion looks like it continues on either side of the greenhouse rather than the greenhouse just sort of being slapped onto it. I would like to add a grand staircase going down around this area. You can see the spruce slabs that I've added here just to make that a little visually easier to notice. The building below here, I'm still working on a bunch of shapes to put in, as I'm still, again, really not sure on this area, as this was all fairly heat of the moment, random flash of inspiration to add in the greenhouse. So over here's what this is all looking like from a farther back view. I have added a roof over here to pop this part in, and I think I'm going to top that part off by making it a sort of extension of the greenhouse, just an outdoor roofed garden area sort of a thing. Over on this side, you can see I've been experimenting with making the mountain more stone and moss themed instead. I've been making it using a combination of tuff, cobblestone, the new pale moss, and just regular moss. I have been trying to, in some places, blend the moss a little bit more into the dirt and have the dirt ride up a little bit more. I do like the shape of the mountain and I would like to keep it, but I don't like how from a distance the mountain just looks brown because of the dirt textures all on the side. So I do have noticed that I do prefer the stone texture to that. So I'm thinking of wrapping that around the base a little more. A little ways away from that, though, you can see that I have moved my little wheat area over to here, so that I have a lot more space to grow wheat, so that I can trade that with villagers to get more experience for my weapons, mainly, so that I can mend them all. And then here's just that tower from the outside. A little bit of a better view of it. And then on a little bit of a jump back inside the building, you can see I've started working a little farther down on this passageway here. I've made there be a little bit of a broken nether portal into a very nethery area. Down this path over here, I've just continued on the little path, and I've put a little nether portal that's, of course, fake on the end here just to look into the mines, as this is where a cavern naturally connected the two areas beforehand, and so I just wanted to preserve that. Down this other path here, you can see the reason this is all nether themed, and that is that I have made this a little nether wart farm area. Again, nothing redstone, but it is just a massive space to grow nether wart. I've started filling up a few of these chests with them. This was all just so that I could get the coloring for the stairs floor back out in the front of the base. It did take me a while to do, as this is all very natural, and if I work on it too long, then I start repeating it, and then it looks a little too uniform. But I did mix in a lot of, like, a broken down nether fortress, so it sort of looks like you've been transported into the nether, and this is all just overgrowing what building was already there. I think the smoke adds a nice little touch to it to make it just that little bit more ambient. Back up in this area, I have messed around with making a little bit of a redstone farm just to make the harvesting of this a little easier. I don't think I'm going to do much more redstone than this for farms, as I do like collecting everything by hand. I just this got a little bit tedious to keep pulling them off each time. Over and down in here, I've started adding a little bit of a pyre system throughout it to light it up a little better without torches, make it just feel a little bit more like a mine. It feels a little less abandoned this way, but I do think it's a neat touch. I'm still working on figuring out how much is too much and where the best placements are, but I do think it looks nice. And over here, I've started adding a little base to the pillars so that they look a little bit more sturdy and a little more like they are keeping up the weight of the whole building down here. I also added a little pillar down here just as a sort of proof of concept, because I figure that it makes a lot of sense for these to continue throughout the whole mines instead of just exclusively being in this one line over here. So I am going to try and add them to the other side and around in little other areas dotted around. Up at the top of these steps, you can see that I've been messing with trying to get a staircase to fit in here. It's a large area for the type of gradient I'd like for this staircase. So I've been messing around with a few different types, but I do think I'm getting it to a point that I do like. So I'll start figuring out how to work that in a little bit better right after this. I have been thinking of the idea of connecting this to a room over here rather than to this room, and just leaving this as sort of an open-aired area in this room itself. And just as a quick side tangent, this is what this area currently looks like from up here. I do like that this feels like an old sort of arcadey carpet. So I think I'm going to keep this in, because I do think it contrasts really nicely as well. Over here, I was messing around with trying to make this little turret out of stone, and I made it way more detailed than I meant to. So now I'm just trying to figure out how to blend it in with the rest of the mansion. Over there, you can see I've started to detail some of the windows just to see how it looks all together. And I do think that with added decoration to the actual wall itself there, it'll look a lot better, especially when I figure out how to put a roof here and what sort of supports on the bottom I would like. Over in this little section of the mansion, I have quite obviously been building up a lot of things. I had some inspiration as to how to continue building that up, and I realized I wanted to try a different roof here. I've been trying to keep my roofs fairly similar with the curved style, but I did think that the pointed roof looked a lot better here, and I do think that having the one roof be an A-frame really does help just break up the monotony of the roofs. So at the moment I am keeping that in, as I do think it's just a cute little section of the roof to have. On the bottom here, I started adding a little pathway so that it's a little bit more accessible on the ground level than running through different hills to get here. I have also added a roof to the top of this place. I do think I'm going to be adding an aquarium to the top of it, so that's why there's glass with some sand lined on the side. Also, in this area, I haven't done it yet, but I do want to make this sort of a cave or something. Right here I've written a stalagmite cave, just because having the bees here for a while, I realized I don't quite like this background. I like the idea of it, but the execution isn't great, so I'm going to mess around with that and change the inside of the glass areas just a little bit to see if I can make that work a little better. As is a little visible from the outside from the fact that I'm having the colors bleed through to the inside of this area, I have started adding little rooms that I'm going to try and make into shops. For now, nothing much has been built. I've mostly gotten this little stairwell in, which leads you up to the second area, along with a little flower shop over here that I've added some water through the grates to the roof here to make it just feel a little bit opener, a little bit more open, a little more airy, along with some steps down to the first floor of it. On the left here, I was thinking of making maybe an armor shop, just in this little space up here, but connected to it, I've started a little fish shop, which I have connect to the aquarium above all the shops, with a little bubble pillar that can send the fish up and down. Over here on this side, I'm thinking of maybe trying to do a fabric shop sort of thing over here. I'm not too sure how I'd pull that off, but that's sort of my main idea for over here. I'm not too sure what to do with this shop, and I'm not sure if I should be continuing these shops down or not. I don't want to have all of them be two-storied like the flower shop, but I do think some of them going up and down would be cute. Over here, though, I do have a little bit of like a bakery planned out. I have been really enjoying this sort of style. I feel like the roof's a bit sudden, but I'd like to mess around with that and make it work a little better because I do quite like this cute little bakery sort of feel that I have going on here. And then finishing over here, I'm still not sure what to do with any of this space. I'm thinking of maybe putting a stairwell down over here, but other than that, I'm not certain. So it's just a big empty space where I've been trying out different shapes to see how to fill in the interior of it. Up here is where it's going to be inside of the fish tank. I've been trying to make the ceilings of all of these shops blend into the fish tank a little bit. Obviously, it's a bit limited as I don't have any of the other ceilings in, but it has been a started attempt. You can see on the inside, I've added little windows here just to make that little section look a little nicer instead of just a flat wall or any open area. I might try and put something inside of there, but there's really not a lot of space in there. Up top here, though, I have been adding the sand, and I would like to put the glass there and make this a little restaurant, as I believe I have mentioned before. I'm not certain on that. And then here are the other two roofs that I had started doing. It's been very minimalism. Like right here, I've just let the sand drop down. I might connect it. I might try to make it a little more of a trench. I'm not sure, but I did think it would be cute to see like the fish here and things like that. And as yet another quick little detour, up here I've started adding a bit of a deck again, just to again bring in the space a little bit, add a little bit of change into the shape. And you can see over here I've started to put a roof onto this little pathway. I've started to make it just look a little better so that it actually looks like a pathway instead of just a stick going through the two buildings. You can see up here, I've started to detail the side of this just a little bit. I'm thinking of putting a doorway in here, and I would like this to be yet another little grassy garden area. You can also see that there's a deck just a little ways down over there, and I've been just trying to build this up with varying different shapes. Out in the distance here, you can see that I've added some pillars down to the bottom of that, which took a little while, but I'm really proud of how they turned out, especially since they keep up sort of a very balanced weight, where some of those are way bigger at the bottom than the others, but it all feels very balanced and even, sort of. And then here's just another angle of this whole section over here. Up on the top of this little section, you can see I've added a stairway up. I'm thinking of keeping this roof going around and then having this just be a little area underneath it. Again, still not sure what to do with the area itself, but I am thinking of continuing the decked area underneath that and then having it go into the actual rooms closer to over there. As you can see, I've brought that to be sort of just a tiny tower in there. And then just finishing up here, I've gotten myself some netherite pools just to make sure that they don't burn, because I threw my pickaxe in lava a few times and decided that was more than enough times. So I decided to just put in the time to get some netherite to stop it from ever occurring again. And over here you can see that I've started to make a map of the general area, just because I think that it's really cool being able to see the progress of this from above. Not all of it's fully up to date, but it is fun walking through and just watching the map update as I build things. And then just closing out updates, I've been working on some general projects that are a bit hard to put up here. I've also been trying to get back into coding, and I've been, as you can see, working on this slowly but surely. I've realized that I should be checking a little bit more often how much progress I made, because since this is so incremental, I usually don't realize how much of progress I've made until I do look back. But I did finally look back and see how much progress I made. Again, this is the second attempt I'm making at this video, as the first one I had a lot more stuttering in it, and I was trying to cut out a lot of the stuttering, especially since I've noticed my mic picks up just about every breath I take. But as I was editing that, I learned that as much as I enjoy editing videos, I don't enjoy just sitting here and editing videos like this. I don't enjoy listening to myself talk that much, so I'm going to be trying to cut back on that and cut down on the editing I was trying to do with the first attempt on this video and just continue with mostly unedited versions of this video. I hope that does come naturally though, as I hope that I get a little bit more comfortable speaking in front of just a lonely laptop so that I don't stutter as much and I'm a little bit more confident with my words. But either way, I am going to try to update a little more frequently. I'm going to try to make sure that I'm working on other projects, because there are ones that I would like to put up here that I just haven't gotten a chance to. Either way, have a lovely day. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you soon, I hope.